Now that 2020 is officially over, I can finally tell you about a super secret Apple event that took place a couple of months ago. There had been rumors for months that Apple was secretly looking to buy Tesla. We saw some pretty cryptic tweets from Elon. Then the official bid was leaked. $25 billion. And finally, Tim Cook took the stage and said,
"We do have one more thing."
Apple is buying Tesla. Okay, so obviously that didn't happen, but it almost did in all reality. Twice, actually. I've got a lot to break down, and I've got some stories to tell you about Apple and Tesla that you've probably never heard before. Of all the ways to end the 2020 Apple rumor cycle, the last thing I expected to see were new rumors and this resurgence of information about the new Apple car. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, you've never heard of the Apple car and want to know what this whole thing is, let me give you a really quick breakdown. We have been hearing for years now that Apple is working on its own physical car. It's been one of those rumors that has been around for a while, and the longer it's kind of been in the rumor cycle, the more we start to learn as things start to sort of leak out. It's gone by many different names: Apple Car, iCar, Project Titan, and many claim it's really supposed to be Apple's next big thing, its next big star project. And if we take a second just to dream about what this Apple car could be, there is a lot to get excited about. Obviously, Apple is one of the innovators in the tech space, so this car would be loaded with tech. Apple could kind of take what they've learned designing high-end phones and watches and computers and even buildings and other things at this point and deliver a really premium car experience with a really nice design on the outside, super premium materials on the inside, nice and minimal. It would have seamless integration between your Apple Watch, your iPhone, all your different Apple products. I mean, the idea of an Apple car sounds crazy, but it almost doesn't. Well, after numerous leaks and rumors and different reports from analysts, we had heard a couple years ago from a report in the Wall Street Journal that Apple was significantly scaling back this car effort, that they were pulling resources from team members and locations and probably R&D funds to focus on other things. And instead of Apple building their own physical car, they would switch to building a self-driving car system that they would then license to other auto manufacturers. So think of it like CarPlay. But then we got some exciting news from Reuters that claims that Apple is doubling down on their efforts to, again, build a physical car. And they're aiming to start production of this car in the next 3, 4, or 5 years, depending on which analysts you decide to believe. And that it would feature some real cutting-edge battery technology that would do loads for range and efficiency of the likes that we've never seen before, specifically with competitors like Tesla. Which kind of begs the question, why wouldn't Apple just buy Tesla? Tesla seems to be doing what Apple wanted to do with their car all along, or more specifically, why would Tim Cook refuse to take the meeting and even hear out Tesla and Elon Musk on a possible acquisition? All of this stems from a tweet from Elon Musk himself, kind of in the flurry of all this Apple car news, and he said pretty bluntly that during the darkest days of the Model 3's production, that he'd actually reached out to Apple on a possible acquisition for 1/10 the current valuation of Tesla today. That'd be about $60 billion-ish, and Tim Cook refused to take the meeting. If you were to take any of the emotions or bad blood out of this and look at it from a purely objective standpoint, there is so much between an Apple and Tesla partnership that could really be a win-win for both companies. Let's start with the obvious with Tesla. Obviously, Tesla needs the money, and Apple, being the cash cow that they are, could solve all of Tesla's financial worries. When Elon was referring to kind of the darkest days of Model 3 production, we're gonna make an educated guess that is sometime in late 2017, early 2018, when Tesla was, like they often were for many years, on the brink of bankruptcy and desperately needed cash. Bringing these two companies together also gives Tesla access to some of Apple's biggest assets, weakness, which is its people. Obviously, Tesla has some real, smart and intelligent people working at the company, but Apple's got some brilliant minds as well. Obviously, Tesla would also benefit from Apple's technology, the stuff we have right now, and the stuff still in the labs and R&D buildings at Cupertino, and also access to a bunch of Apple patents. And also, something that can't be missed is Apple's clout. Apple has a certain reputation with manufacturers, with government agencies. There is a certain way that Apple can get things done that Tesla probably couldn't on their own. But remember, Tesla's not the only one kind of benefiting from this deal. Apple would not be paying this company $60 billion from the kindness of their own hearts. Apple has got a lot to gain from a Tesla acquisition as well, just as much as Tesla does, quite frankly. It's no secret that Apple has swooped in and hired a bunch of ex-Tesla executives and engineers and software developers over the years, and they really want to get those Tesla people inside of Apple and on their team. And I think that acquiring Tesla would obviously, again, give them access to so many brilliant minds. These Tesla employees not only can talk about designing, manufacturing, marketing, and selling a car, they have done it. Tesla has been doing this for years, and that type of experience is really invaluable, especially to Apple, which is yet to ever even release its own car, even officially talk about the idea of an Apple car. Also, we really don't know what Apple's internal roadmap was at this time, 2017, 2018, but there is a good chance that Tesla was just far ahead of them in the technology. Specifically with autopilot and full self-driving, Tesla is doing so much incredible stuff in that area. They are really kind of setting the pace for the industry, and there's a really good chance that Tesla was just miles ahead of what Apple was doing at that time. So acquiring Tesla would obviously give Apple access to all of that technology, all of that research, everything that was in the cars and also that was yet to be released. That could be a huge step up for Apple and obviously save them so much time. And instead of trying to compete with Tesla's autopilot system, they can now just own it and implement it and change it how they saw fit. And last but certainly not least, an acquisition of Tesla from Apple would give them immediate access to something that's really important and often not remembered, which is kind of the infrastructure. Tesla has showrooms, they have dealerships, sort of. They have an infrastructure in place for online ordering. They have the manufacturing plants. They have the R&D facilities. They are already building, producing, designing cars, and they are ready to go with that today. They don't have to build something new. They don't have to rent new space and talk with consultants. Again, they've been doing this and they have the infrastructure in place to make this happen. Apple has their own infrastructure, but they're developing things like this, that, this. These aren't cars. They're great products, but they're not cars, and acquiring Tesla would really give them a leg up in terms of manufacturing. They'd have all of that stuff in-house. Apple loves to have stuff done in-house, not to have to rely on other third-party manufacturers, and they could build the cars in their own factory, under their roof, and under their own supervision. Apple loves control. This is obviously a huge plus. Which leads us to kind of the elephant in the room and the obvious question, if this is such a good deal, why didn't it happen? Why are Apple and Tesla not together right now and working together to make the next big, great electric car that's gonna shock the world and send shockwaves through the tech and automotive space? Well, I think that there are a couple answers to this. It really boils down to three main things. First, the optics just weren't good. If you know anything about Apple, you know they are slow, they are calculated, they are very careful in whatever they do, and they are extremely secretive. They do not announce what they're doing. They are not necessarily the first to do things most of the time. They're very slow to act, but they're very cautious and careful to do exactly the right thing at the right time, exactly as they see fit. Tesla is kind of the polar opposite of that. Elon Musk has a reputation for speaking his mind and kind of telling it like it is, and he's not afraid to say that the stock price of Tesla is just too high in his opinion. That kind of thing is just not good for Apple. They are extremely careful about their optics, and Elon Musk's reputation, along with some other Tesla PR nightmares, it just isn't good optics for Apple. And the two companies have, like I said, very similar cultures, but also very different cultures. Tesla and Elon Musk will talk openly about new features, things they're developing, make some kind of sometimes crazy claims. Apple is much more conservative and does not do that. So not only was the culture just not going to mesh together, but the optics, the public perception, the image just was not in Apple's favor here. The second reason is that maybe when Elon reached out during this 2017, 2018 time, Apple didn't need them. Either Apple was doing just fine on its own, they were advancing, they were on track, on pace, they had the infrastructure, the personnel, the executive know-how to make this happen without any kind of third-party entity, and they just didn't need Tesla. Or maybe a little bit more realistic, they were shifting gears and just weren't competing in that space anymore. Remember when we heard back during this timeline from the Wall Street Journal that Apple was kind of shifting gears? It probably lined up with this timeline of Elon Musk's accounts as well, that maybe when Elon reached out to Apple, Apple was no longer interested in kind of building their own car. They were interested in the technology, in the software as a service, and they really didn't need Tesla to do that. It'd be nice for Apple to buy the Autopilot suites, but they couldn't do that without buying the whole company, and they just had no need for owning an actual car company and a car production firm. It just wasn't necessary at the time. Apple just didn't need Tesla for one reason or another. And last but certainly not least, and something you might not have heard before, I think the big reason that Apple did not buy Tesla a few years ago is that Apple had already tried to buy Tesla a few years earlier, and Tesla had turned them down. And if you know anything about Apple, they will hold a grudge forever. Just ask Gizmodo. And the fact that Tesla turned them down meant that they were essentially dead to Apple, and Apple would no longer waste any more time, effort, resources, nothing on Tesla. They were moving full speed ahead, totally without them. The short of this story is that back in 2013, when Tesla was again on the brink of bankruptcy, that Elon Musk was quietly and kind of privately trying to take bids for a company to acquire Tesla. Apparently, Tesla and Google were almost near a deal that was actually drawn up. It was in the final stages of paperwork that would have Google buying Tesla for $11 billion. It would stay as a wholly owned subsidiary to Google. Elon Musk would remain at the helm, but then Model S sales picked up and Tesla no longer needed the money, and that deal kind of fell through, and Tesla remained an independent company and no longer needed that money. But Google wasn't the only one interested. According to analysts and multiple reports, Apple made a serious bid to buy Tesla back in 2013 for $240 per share. This would have valued the company at right around $28.5 billion, which is no insignificant amount, and it was actually a pretty competitive amount because the market cap of Tesla around that time was around $18.5 billion. So this was about a $10 billion premium. It was a very fair offer, and it would have meant that Tesla would become a part of Apple, Apple would acquire them, and the two companies would work together and be basically one company, and everything would kind of fall through in a magical fairy tale ending from there. But obviously that didn't happen. We don't know how far the talks got, what were some of the biggest sticking points, and why it didn't happen. But one thing that we have heard from multiple reports again is that one of the reasons that deal did not go through was that Apple wanted Elon Musk to step away from Tesla. For a myriad of reasons, probably the optics and the PR reasons I talked about earlier, Apple did not want Elon Musk associated with Tesla, or more specifically, Elon associated with Apple. So it seemed like they wanted him to step away. Elon was not going to do that, obviously. So that kind of seemed to kill the deal. So obviously that deal fell through, which kind of makes more sense and gives some context as to why a couple of years later, when Elon would come knocking at the door of Apple for some cash, Tim Cook would not take the meeting. He made an offer. Apple obviously made a serious bid to acquire Tesla. Tesla turned them down. Apple's moving on. Again, Apple's gonna hold a grudge forever, even if it's a company like Tesla that has so much to offer. They are just too strong-willed and they don't care. Which now all brings us to 2021 and kind of where we sit today. Obviously, Tesla is doing quite well for themselves. The company is worth, I think, upwards of $600 billion. They're making new cars. Elon Musk is doing well. Obviously, they don't need the cash any longer. And now you have a resurgence of news that Apple is working on their own car. They're doubling down their efforts. And it looks like they're looking to go head to head with Tesla with their own premium electric vehicle with cutting edge technology, breakthrough battery technology. And it's gonna get very interesting very fast over the next couple of years. So it is very exciting to think about how Tesla and Apple could work together, what an Apple car could look like with the Tesla influence, what a Tesla car could look like with Apple influence, with the Apple software. There is so much good that could have come from the two companies working together. But for now, that's not gonna happen. I'd be surprised if the two companies ever work together in any official capacity. And it looks like from here on out, Apple and Tesla are going to be going head to head for your dollars. and for that spot in your driveway. Apple versus Tesla, looks like that's just how it's gonna be. So what do you guys think of all this? Do you think Tesla could have been more successful if it was bought by Apple and kind of was a subsidiary under Apple? Do you think we'd see the Apple car on the road? Or do you think that it's better to have that competition, let Apple kind of struggle and really kind of grind their teeth and make their own electric vehicle for themselves, and let Tesla continue to compete and really push the automotive industry forward? There are so many different possibilities. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Robert Rosenfeld from the Apple Circle. I'll see ya in the next one.